Good morning, it's KHEA Radio, 99.5 FM. This is Kickstart. My name is Gardy. I got AJ with Hippie Fertilizing here in studio. You know, it was an interesting week, and a lot of people are still dealing with the aftermath, fixing pipes, all kinds of stuff. One thing that people are probably realizing now is the aftermath of their yard, of their plants, of everything that's in their yard. What's going to happen? Mine doesn't look so good right now. It didn't look that good before, but now it looks even worse. I posted that picture and you commented on it.
Yeah.
Need some hippie juice.
Right.
Yeah. How you doing today?
Oh, man, I'm doing fantastic. Thank God, fared through this storm well. Was still getting some hippie fertilizing support. Got plenty to go do this week. And my, most exciting moment of the week, is I'm wondering, is my pump going to bust? Or my tank, anything on that? Went and tested it all yesterday. All I had was a cracked handle for my spray gun. Thank God I keep spares. So just boom, replaced the spare, started right up. And I hadn't started it all week. So that was impressive.
That's a good sign.
Very good sign. Yeah. So gonna go spraying hippie juice later today and spreading some good organic fertilizer. Thank God, man. It turned out way better than it could have.
So what have you heard from your customers so far? I saw you shared a picture, and it was right whenever it snowed, and everyone was still happy. There was electricity and a bunch of stuff. You had shared something, and it looked like there wasn't that much snow on your customer's yard as opposed to other ones, and you had put a question out there, and I was stumped.
So the question in the picture was, those days where we had snowfall, right? Mm-hmm. His lawn didn't stay covered in snow. So I asked, why would his lawn not be covered in snow and everyone else's is when they're in the exact same conditions otherwise, right? Well, the answer to that question is his biological activity in his lawn is through the roof compared to most others. Now, I will say, I know this guy personally. We chat all the time. He follows me for lawn care like I should follow myself. I don't, okay? Like some people follow Randy Lemon, to the T. He's like, what should I do about this? And I give him suggestions. He does follow it, and it shows, okay? Because his lawn all year long is baller compared to everyone else's. Mm-hmm. So I will say he puts down more microlife than most people would probably want to know about, okay?
Yeah. There's no dirt left. It's just microlife.
Oh, no. It's amazing freaking soil.
Right.
It's not dirt. It's soil.
Soil.
That's right.
When I think of soil, I think of something soft. It's almost like mud. It's like dry, I don't know, soil and...
soil, really healthy soil, should be soft, should be moist. You should be able to grab it and clump it up in your fist, and it should stick together kind of well because it'll have glomalins and other properties to it that help those soil aggregates stick together and keep it like the soil aggregates kind of apart as well. It's essentially like what I like to coin as a micro-aeration. Right, because it supports soil flocculation, it's more porous, but because there's more biological activity, in the cold months, it's warmer. So really healthy soil helps regulate soil temperatures a whole lot better than dirt.
Okay, so that's what happened to your customer's yard. It was at a warmer temperature, the soil was, so the snow kind of melted?
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely. Or didn't have a chance to stick.
Yeah.
Whereas all the lawns up and down the street, white with snow.
But in that case, wouldn't you kind of be upset? I guess if he had kids, they'd be like, Dad, why doesn't our yard have stuff? It's like, it's soil biology, son.
Go to the neighbor's house.
Yeah, go play next door, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what should we do now? Where do we go from here? That's been the question that I've been asking, a couple people. Where do we go from here? Whenever it comes to our lawn and then I guess making sure that we make a right decision instead of a wrong decision right now because all my stuff looks dead.
So my first suggestion would be a lot of plants, they're going to make it. You're going to want to trim back dead stuff. Part of the issue with your plants sometimes, and the reason why they don't live is because all that dead stuff on them causes the rest of it to rot. So we want to take off what's dead, prune it back. A lot of stuff will live. The other thing is too is we get a little impatient. You know, oh, it looks all brown right now. Rip it out. I need new landscaping. Hey, like I said in my own personal video on my page, like if that's your plan and you want new landscaping, go ahead and do it. I'm glad you got a reason. Some people don't want to do that though, so give it some time. Later in spring, you'll start to see new buds pop up, but it's going to work faster and better and healthier if you prune them back. The other thing is too, now would be a great time, like if you got thick layer of mulch that hasn't been touched, turn that mulch as well. Feed your soil. Use some microlife. Use some molasses. Use some nature's creation. Right? Do something that's going to stimulate biological activity in your soil, because that's going to really stimulate your plants to have that new growth and to come back.
Okay, so what about, like, I know like the plants and everything, but what should we do for like the grass and the lawn right now?
So, like, mow it high. The good thing is with this freeze, knocked out a lot of weeds. So the cool thing is with those weeds being dead on top, you'll have those spaces where those roots were. So now your soil is going to be more open and porous, right? But feed it. Spray that with some molasses. I'm serious. It's like Frank's Red Hot sauce. You put that stuff on everything.
Even the kids, if they're out there playing, they'd be okay, yeah.
So serious, okay? You know, you got potassium, calcium, magnesium, iron. Like, it's like a multivitamin.
Okay.
And a biostimulant all at once, okay?
Awesome.
It's really good stuff. Seaweed will help, too, with, like, root growth stimulation, plant hormones. It's going to help the stuff bounce back. You said, like, what not to do, right? Don't scalp the lawn. Okay, don't do it. Don't get all excited and do some core aeration. I don't recommend that service.
What is that?
What, core aeration?
Yeah.
Core aeration is when you take a often gasoline-powered machine. Sometimes you can do it by hand, but pulls out plugs that are usually about 1 to 1.5 inches. And the idea is that it pulls out these plugs and allows the soil to loosen up. But it's often your root structure in your plant or your lawn is already stressed. So I look at it like it's only going to stress the lawn out more. So you got to put more into it for the recovery of that stressed lawn. So, you know, doing like a lawn top dressing and, again, feeding it, supporting some soil flocculation, is going to have long-term benefits that are going to be way better. Core aeration.
Yeah, okay, long-term benefits. I like long-term benefits, but I want the short-term benefits too.
Well,
and that's the kind of people that we, you know, I guess Americans and just people in general always are like, I want it now, right? Microwave society.
And I get that.
Yeah.
That's where something like Microlife Hybrid comes in. Okay, as it warms up, some 2005 Microlife Hybrid, it's going to freaking make your lawn take off like a rocket, all right? Because you need, you know, a few things. You need food for the lawn, right? You're gonna want nitrogen. I'm not a big fan of talking about nitrogen all the time because we breathe it in more than we breathe oxygen, right? It's everywhere. But to get our grass kicked off, we need a good higher amount of nitrogen. I just don't like to talk about it because there's not a lot of good sources out there, right? But Microlife Hybrid is a way better source than most. And so it's going to really kick your lawn off like nothing else on the freaking market.
Okay, you bring up a good point because you were talking about seaweed and molasses. You say something on the market. Where do you even get things like that?
So like Grow Pond Gardens has it, Moss Nursery. And when I say Grow Pond Gardens, that's Lynn's Landscaping. I'm pretty sure the feed store on Highway 3 carries it. A lot of garden centers will carry certain products. So don't get too caught up on necessarily the brand. Of course, like, I'm a fan of Microlife. I like that stuff. But just because it's not Microlife doesn't mean it isn't a good, viable product in terms of seaweed. I know Medina has a product called Liquid Humus. I used to use that all the time. Of course, though, if y'all want to take the easy route, I could just spray it for you.
There you go.
Go order up some hippie juice on hippiefertilizing.com.
I feel like most people, that's the option they would like. It's like, okay, Yeah, that's the one I want. Can you just do it for me? And the answer is yes, you will do all that for him.
Absolutely.
Right,
I'd love to do it for you. And then take the guesswork out of it. What to use and how much to use and this and that and the other. For some of y'all who don't know, I do have a YouTube channel. I have a video where I'm mixing up some hippie juice because I do have small batches of hippie juice in bottles. And it's pretty much the same thing. Like if you're using hippie juice or molasses or humic acid, you can follow those similar instructions and spray it everywhere. That's, what I will always promote and practice and preach about what I use. If you can't touch it with our bare hands, don't use it. So it's, you can take any one of those, and if you use a little too much, it's okay.
What you were describing, like, feeding the lawn, reminds me of meal prep, because you're taking the guesswork out of it. You can have the instructions, and there's a lot of meal prepping sources where they tell you exactly what to do, but it's like you got to measure, you got to cut it makes a big mess, and then like, oh, it takes a whole day. But then there's services where they'll meal prep for you and feed you, and it's just like, this is exactly what you need to do. Takes all the guesswork out of it. That's essentially what you're doing, but for the environment, for our soil, for our yards.
Right, for our lawns, our micro ecosystems that we all share to conglomerate into a big old macro ecosystem, right?
The micro ecosystem, I could see you having like hippie fertilizing. It's like on your hat or your shirt, and it's like, I love my micro ecosystem or something like that.
I'm gonna try and put something together like that this year. Then
or that could
I
be
like that idea.
The name of one of the packages at hippiefertilizing.com or something. The micro ecosystem bundle. I don't know. Take the guesswork out of it.
We'll think about that. We'll see what we can do.
Yeah.
It can be done.
Okay. So the hard freeze, a lot of people are still dealing with that stuff. The yards, the lawns, they were hit pretty hard. So can we talk a little bit about, I guess, the soil pH? And I know we need to talk about spring because today it's going to be like a high of 70 degrees.
Right. And like it was yesterday, it felt amazing.
It's nice.
Yeah.
You know what else is weird is whenever it was in the 40s, I was like, man, this feels way nice, as opposed to like 15. Yeah, you get used to like 15, and then you're like 40, and I was like, normally I'd have like my big jacket on, but it just changes everything.
Oh, walking out in 18 degrees.
Yeah.
I forget exactly what day it was, but I took my dog out. I have a husky. He was loving it. He loved all of it, every single bit. Didn't phase him a bit. He's just laying in the snow.
That's awesome.
Someone made a joke. I posted a picture, and I was like, what do you think he's thinking? And someone said, my ancestors laugh at this weather. So we went out there at Nassau Bay Park, and the wind was whipping. Dude, my fingers were icicles in just minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, not a fan.
Yeah.
Please, Lord, I will be okay with sweating again.
Yeah.
So you asked about pH.
Yeah.
Right? And the reason I bring it up is because it's often a big question. Well, what about my soil pH? Well, because it is important, when pH changes too high or too low, it locks out nutrients. Is essentially a big part of what happens. But the thing is that plants in our landscape will, under healthier conditions, or if you start supporting those healthier conditions, because they may be not so great conditions in the beginning. We got a lot of new build around here. We got a lot of bad practices. It'll ruin soil pH, but what it's really doing is ruining plant health, right? And so plants have an ability to improve their own environment and adjust their pH to what they need and like, right? So doing stuff like sulfur and lime and things like that to adjust pH, to some extent, it's okay, right? But a very tiny extent, all right? Because I know some services out there say, oh, we'll do a sulfur treatment. Well, if you're not feeding your soil biology and you're just throwing down some sulfur, good luck, okay? If you're not supporting your soil biology, that SSB, and you throw down a bunch of lime, good luck, all right? Because some of these products, too, like sulfur and lime, can also be used to kill bugs. So if they're killing bugs, they're killing smaller things, they're actually killing the soil food web that you need to support.
And you're not supporting soil biology, I figure, at that point, if you're killing the bugs, right?
No, you're not. So I know people say, hey, well, what about the bugs? That's a big deal. It is a big deal, but we need a lot of them because it keeps the bad guys in check. Okay? So, I get asked quite often, and I hear about it all the time, well, what about my soil pH? Is it important at large? Yeah, it is. I'm not going to say it isn't. But is it something that you should concern yourself with? No, not really. Okay? Because our adjustments that we can do to soil pH are not going to have long-term effects. And oftentimes, if you try and take that lovely soil science into your own hands that way, a lot of people do more damage than good. So, as it is a concern, leave it alone.
Well, let me ask a question. What is soil pH? If you had to describe it, like I was thinking, because I have this smart water and it says like alkaline 9 plus, and I was like, oh, it does say pH on there. I thought it does, but to be honest, I'm like, soil pH. What if you had to describe it or explain it in like simple terms that I can understand? What is it?
Okay, now that's a good question, and I don't have the most, I guess, scientific answer.
Good,
for that.
because I couldn't understand the most scientific answer.
So it has to do with how basic or alkaline something is, right? Like the difference between, say, vinegar and bleach, all right? And we want to find that nice little middle ground. So good soil pH is typically around 6.5.
Okay.
All right? You do not want 9% soil pH.
Like this water?
Right, because nothing will grow, okay? And so that's like, if I'm not mistaken, it's more alkaline. So that's assuming our body is a lot more acidic. So it being higher would actually help balance us out.
Okay.
All right? Because the more balanced it is, the more you receive everything.
This says vapor distilled ionized water with and electrolytes for taste.
Yeah.
It's just...
So it has a little bit of minerals.
I probably don't need any of this. I could just drink... Well, now I can drink the water from the tap. Yesterday, before like 11 o'clock, I couldn't.
Hey, man, I drink water from the tap. I drink water from spigots. I always appreciate when someone gives me some bottled water for sure. But,
yeah.
Honestly, I avoid it because, bottles and stuff drive me nuts. Helping out with the Clear Creek cleanup, and if you go pick up all them bottles and stuff, and just have bottled water. I'm like,
just like, what are you gonna throw it back in the creek? Where's this going? Yeah.
Well, it just makes me wonder, what do we need to do and ask questions and think about for, say, our infrastructure, so we can be more confident in our tap water than paying for bottled water.
Did you see that I interviewed Hank Doogie yesterday?
I did see that for a minute. I was driving, so I didn't watch it.
Thank you for practicing safe driving.
Yeah. So
yeah, that's what we were talking about.
That.
We were talking about the water because they still had the boil water in effect, and League City was one of the last. Or I think there's maybe Galveston still has one, but there's places that have had their water cleared, saying like, hey, the testing bacteria levels are okay, but apparently League City gets the majority of their water from Houston, and so they had to wait for Houston's levels to test right, and then once that happened, then they coincided testing with the League City water, and it was clear and good to go. So it's like, you don't need to boil it anymore. But I was like, okay, well, I know it's still in my pipe, so I was like reading, what do I need to do? And turn on some of your pipes for like a minute or something like that and drain it. I don't know. I was brushing my teeth with it still for a little bit, and I was like, I probably shouldn't. I forget. It's just like out of habit. And that's the same thing with like lawn care and everything. Like not just lawn care, but everything in life. It's like you just create these habits. Well, this is the way we've always done it. I always brush my teeth. It's weird to try and brush your teeth with a bottle of water, or like do your lawn care in a different way. So.
And I hear about that often. I tell these guys, hey, I'm not going to kill your weeds. They're like, what? What do you mean? But I want weed killer down. I'm like, no, you want your grass to grow, right? And they're like, well, yeah, I want a pretty lawn, but I want to kill the weeds. And I'm like, hold on, what's the first thing you said? You want a pretty lawn. Let's focus on that. So this whole experience, though, kind of makes me think, like, what do we not know about the things that make our everyday life more simple?
Yeah.
Right? And in some cases, healthier. Water, it's a big deal. I still drink it out the spigot.
Yeah.
And I'm still here.
Yeah.
Don't know for how long. So if something happens, hey, do an autopsy or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can just keep ordering your stuff from Hippie Fertilizing. Get that hippie juice.
Hey, man.
Someone will fill the order.
Dude. And yeah, for real.
So just keep ordering. Keep it going.
That's right. Hey, just remember, if something happens, support soil biology. That's all I want y'all to do.
Yeah.
Okay?
SSB.
That's right. You know me, the hippie who supports soil biology.
Oh, man. Okay, so right now it's 9:16. This is KHEARadio.com, 99.5 FM, talking to AJ with Hippie Fertilizing on KHEA Radio. If you're watching on social media, feel free to ask questions. Let me know where you're watching from and if there's anything that AJ can help out with or anything that I can as well. So we've been talking about soil pH and kind of explaining it in a way where people can understand, but why is that important? Why would soil pH be important, or why would customers be so concerned about it?
It's something that we hear about. To me, it's almost like a buzzword. Soil pH, soil pH. I need to adjust that. Well, because again, it's whether it's too basic or too alkaline or acidic or whatever, it is going to stop what nutrients are available to plants, right? A lot of things that happen in soil with nutrients and everything that's going on has a lot to do with like electrical charges, right? And so how acidic or basic it is changes those electrical charges and can either kind of shut something down or open it up. And we want to be in a nice middle spot. But the thing is stuff like, very famous weed and feed has a lot of salt, all right? You're slowly degrading your soil pH, but every time you put down like a weed and feed. So like, oh, my soil pH is off. What would you do to the lawn? Nothing. Well, you did something, or at least a lot of times, right? And sometimes what it is a beautiful bonus S. Love that stuff. Or if it says 3-in-1, run.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, here's a question that came in. This is from Joanna. Thank you for asking. She said, is it true that used coffee grinds are good for plants?
Absolutely. Yes. They have a very consistent low rate of nitrogen, and they feed microbes. So they're great for the soil food. They're really best around roses and stuff because they are slightly acidic. So if like acidic loving soils, which doesn't mean, you change the pH a ton, but just slightly, and roses and other flowering plants do like a slightly more acidic condition, used spent coffee grounds are amazing. And I learned this through trial and error. I just took a thing of coffee grounds and threw it all over my lawn.
Not used?
Not used.
Just
okay?
try it. Why not?
Yeah. Didn't work so well. But I have these roses, then I would put coffee grounds around them. Boom. All over the place.
Really?
Yeah, that sucker didn't stop blooming all year. It's
Wow.
beautiful.
Dr. Chapa, he always talks about like these old wives' tales or like the remedies that they used to use a long time ago, and people hear them and they're like, oh, that doesn't work. I need this medication. I need this and that. And he says that a lot of times those things work. There was a reason that was passed down. That kind of reminds me of that. It's like there's no way used coffee grinds could work and help your roses and help your plants, but I never even heard of that before. But
you haven't?
Mm-mm.
So here's something weird that I'll do sometimes too, okay? Because your hair is like 33% nitrogen. Or basically it's protein. So protein getting eaten up by microbes turns into nitrogen. All right? And so sometimes when I trim my facial hair, I'll poke little holes around my flowers and put my facial hair in there.
Really?
I know it sounds real gross, but I'll do that sometimes, and it makes for some great long-lasting blooms. I mean, you don't use a whole ton of it. I'm not doing that every time I trim it up, but sometimes, yeah, because it is a consistent source of nitrogen.
You know what I thought you were going to say?
What?
That you could use coffee grinds and like sometimes if you want I want my beard to grow a little bit thicker or feel good, like, once a month or every 6 weeks, just kind of rub some coffee grinds on there.
If anything, the caffeine and stuff help perk up the skin.
Would it?
Right?
I guess so,
there's
huh?
caffeine in skin products.
Yeah.
For sure. And they actually have coffee ground scrubs, like facial scrubs.
So people are doing it already.
Yeah, they are. My mom has some.
That's cool.
Yeah, I tried it. It works great.
Do you feel the caffeine like in your skin? Does it make you kind of like tingle or anything?
I drink too much coffee to notice, so I wouldn't notice anyway. But I did feel like my skin looked especially perky that day.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Learning skincare tips, lawn care tips, everything you need to know, head to toe.
Hey, I was thinking about doing a molasses mask.
Have you? I feel like you've done that, didn't you? You've probably done like a molasses bath. Just like spray down so the mask would work.
I do have a video where I had a guy spray me with my hippie juice out of my tank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Molasses mask.
Smelled good, tasted okay.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Some of the stuff in our skincare products is all about putting minerals and stuff and vitamins into your skin. Boom. Hippie juice has that, man.
Oh, man, this is awesome. That's funny.
Yeah.
And it's true. It's all true. So, okay, so something else you said when we were talking about soil pH is a lot of times it's a buzzword. So people hear it and it's like, oh, I need to regulate my soil pH or I got to get this. What are some other things in lawn care that you would say are buzzwords that you hear a lot? People say, I need, whether that's like nitrogen or I need this and that, and it's not necessarily what people think.
I look at it kind of like a buzzword, marketing junk, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's pre-emergence. You know, the whole, like, half of lawn care is not even about making it live. It's about killing it, right? In terms of the bigger commercial marketed stuff. How much do they talk about promoting the life? Not often, right?
Right, no, it's kill the weeds.
Yeah, kill the weeds. Have a perfect lawn if your other plants are dead, right? So, or pre-emergence. Well, pre-emergence, if you are on an organic lawn care program and you're putting a pre-emergent down, you are not on an organic lawn care program, all right? You're putting down an herbicide. Herbicide, again, has negative impacts on our most precious thing, soil biology. And it's not healthy for us. You know what? Again, my top rule is like, if I can't touch it with my bare hands, I don't want to use it. There's no pre-emergent that I found besides maybe corn gluten meal that's safe. And yes, corn gluten meal is a thing. It's like 9% nitrogen. It's a natural fungicide, and it's pre-emergent. But timing is critical.
Okay.
Timing is super critical. And even with these pre-emergents, right? People are like, oh, I want to kill the weeds. We're usually doing stuff too late or too early, so half the time you put it down, it was useless anyway.
Corn gluten meal. I'm writing that down so I can remember it for later. I've never heard of that one either. Here's another question that came in. When we were talking about buzzwords, if there's anything that you maybe have heard that you think is good for your yard, feel free to ask. Nitrophosphate, is it good for your lawn?
So you do need phosphates, right? And you do need nitrogen. But the question to be asked is, how are you getting this, right? Again, we have tons of atmospheric, literally tons and tons and billions of tons of atmospheric nitrogen. So feeding nitrogen-fixing bacteria is going to be more important than putting down loads of nitrogen. Phosphate would be like a form of phosphorus, right? And so, if I'm not mistaken, we have a lot here in our soils already. And it's a huge part of the reason why they took it out of a lot of fertilizer products, right? Or they drastically lowered the numbers because that is... Phosphates are easily leached out too, and they contribute to eutrophication big time, right? Which is not good for our aquatic systems, not good for the seafood industry, any of that. So is it important? Absolutely, but how we get it or how we make it available to plants is like the biggest question. So is it coming from, what I would consider an actual food source? Right? Like, what's better? These energy drinks? I know I'm guilty. Okay?
This was delicious. Thank you. AJ brought me this morning.
Yeah. It's organic, though. Okay? And anyway, or would we be better off trying to get all this stuff from a smoothie?
You want the what my personal preference would be? Personal preference, I'd rather have it like this. But, whenever you say what would be better, the better source, from a smoothie where they took all this stuff and they actually mixed it together and we consumed it that way.
Yeah, like what would Dr. Choppa say?
He would say the smoothie.
Yeah.
Not the highball.
Right.
Shout out to Highball. Thank you. This is delicious. Wild berry.
You're welcome. So are those things important to have and be utilized by your plants? Absolutely. You need them. But be careful of the source, okay? Just like with anything.
Consider the source.
Exactly.
I feel like that was a message I heard in church one time.
Yeah?
Yeah, consider the source. I think it was church. I don't know.
Hey,
but I like it. It sounds like a good title.
It is, right? Which is something that we should consider when we hear what we're supposed to do to lawns, when we go and buy what we're going to put on them, right? Because I look at it this way. Your lawn is a part of your home. It's where your children play. It's where your pets are. It's part of my environment, your backyard, my neighbor's backyard, the other backyard. They're all connected. I don't know about you, but when someone sprays Roundup down the street, I can smell it. Okay? And we can either contribute to the health of ourselves and everyone else, or we can take away from it. And unfortunately, we don't realize in a lot of ways we take away from it, right? And the funny thing is, the irony of it is, we're taking away from it by trying to make it better, right? I want my lawn to be healthier, so let me kill something. It's a silly concept, right?
Yeah. And something else, I think of curb appeal. So whenever it comes to you're selling your house, or you just want to, maybe you have a house for rent, or you have a, I don't know, like a property that you rent out, like that's the first thing that somebody sees is like that's why people are so, I guess, invested in their lawn. They just want to have, that's the first, sometimes people may not ever go in your house, but they just drive by and they see it. So that's like the appearance of what people actually see. And then they think, I don't know, like, I don't even want to go look at that house. You know, the yard doesn't look good, or it's dead, or the plants are brown like mine are now. But, you know, that's why people, I think, are so invested in their lawns.
Well, it is true that the cool thing is green spaces, they do have a calming effect, right?
Okay.
They can be good for your health, not just because you're breathing air and stuff like that, or walking around barefoot and grounding yourself, right, with negative ions or whatever, but visually, it helps calm down your mind, right? So it can have actually good biological and physiological effects by having a beautiful, healthy landscape, right? So yeah, there's a huge mental part of it as well. But like, I see people sometimes stress out over it.
Right.
I'm like, dude, hey, we've gone through Harvey, we've gone through Ike. I don't know if y'all remember that stuff. I do. I had a little tree in my house where I lived at the time, and now we got busted pipes, right? So, like, my point is as much as I want to help people have beautiful, healthy lawns, I also want us to keep it in perspective that, hey, it is a lawn, right? It's not everything. Let's work on making it healthy, and let's be happy about it. Let's not stress about it.
All right.
You know?
I like that. Okay, so here's the other thing. So today the high is 70 degrees. You mentioned something about spring earlier. Is spring now? Are we there? And what should we be doing?
So spring it's not quite here yet. I did find out yesterday one of my buddies has an app that watches soil temperatures. So I'll be doing a little investigating, because as the soil temperatures rise is when things are really going to kick off. So like the product I talked about before, that MicroLife Hybrid, it's a 2005, right? Is it going to work now? Yeah, it will. But guess what? In about 6 weeks, it's going to really freaking work, because the soil temperatures are going to be warmer. So things I would do now, right, is just turn the flower beds, right? Trim stuff back. Now is a perfect time to start trimming your crepe myrtles if you haven't already. You will get the best blooms, new growth, all that good stuff if you trim them back properly now. And they're pretty hardy. You could do it later, but you want the best, like, spring, beautiful, vibrant effect. Trim your crepe myrtles now. Also, we did just have this freeze and everything. There's going to be a lot of people with palm trees and dead fronds and stuff like that. If your fronds are bent over and hanging, trim all that stuff off. Trim that thing back. What does he call it? I think Eric Putnam, my master certified arborist buddy, calls it a terminal bud. All right, you got the terminal buds that come out. Well, you're going to want to trim a lot of that stuff off to expose the center the most you can, so that it can get the most sunlight and everything to help revive that palm tree.
You were talking about prawns. Is that just what the arm of a palm tree is called? Or is that
a frond?
Frond. Okay.
Yeah. I think prawns are like fish.
They are.
Yeah.
Something in the ocean. I think I've eaten one, probably.
Yeah, I might have to. Could be in my fertilizer. Who knows?
The seaweed. Seaweed fertilizer.
Oh, sagos. Yeah, like trim back your sagos. And so I see that on there. A lot of those are brown right now. Sagos are pretty hardy, so chances are, even if the whole thing looks brown, just rip all of it off. And chances are you'll get new fronds coming out from the center in just a few weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Foxtail Ferns. I just remembered what the kind of fern was. My wife's like, it's not all brown, but there's some green in there. Should I trim
Just
any
cut
of those
it back to the ground.
Really?
Really. Watch that sucker sprout out new.
That's scary.
Trim it back.
I feel like I would do it wrong.
Dude, with foxtail ferns, good luck.
Okay, really?
Yeah, they're pretty resilient. I've butchered them when I was younger doing landscape maintenance. They'll grow back. I promise you.
Okay, cool. I'll have to try that, because they are brown. And then there's like a generic, I don't even know what kind of bush it is that's next to it, and he's brown too. Trim that back?
So if you have for sure, trim it back. Like I said, take off all the dead stuff. The other thing too is now is a good time to start on your gardening. Get ahead of like the rush. Mm-hmm. If people do have plants and that's part of your plan, it's still cooler outside. If you're going to do a sod installation, do it now before it's hot summer, right? So it'll have time to establish before our 115 real feel degrees.
Yeah.
The other thing is, too, and again, like when I talk about this stuff, I'm not a paid advertiser. I just know what I like, all right? So there's Nature's Way leaf mold compost, and they sell this primarily at like, what is it? SOS. Donna Faye over in Sweet Organic Solutions.
Where
there
they
we
at?
Go. Off 35 in Pearland.
Okay.
Sweet Organic Solutions. She carries leaf mold compost, and Moss Nursery also carries leaf mold compost. This is some of the best stuff. It's like plant insurance. So this is a great thing to use to top dress your flower beds with right now, especially to help promote the recovery of all our plants. Because you want to talk about something that's bursting with soil life. Leaf mold compost often has earthworms in the bags.
Really?
Really, dude. It's dope. Yeah, so that would be a great thing. And even if you have patches in your lawn or, it'd be kind of pricey and a lot of work to get bags to cover the whole lawn. But if you just have spots, bags of that stuff help with, naturally aerating the soil, adding nutrients. And because compost is going to be a lot more biologically active, it's going to kind of like help your soil heat up again. And that's going to be part of the magic in turning things green.
The heat?
Yes.
That's interesting. But then didn't you mention earlier that it keeps your soil a little bit more cool whenever it does get hot?
Yes, it does. Healthy soils help regulate soil temperatures. Correct.
Okay. What's the ideal temperature? Is there one, or does it change, fluctuate throughout the year?
So there is an ideal one. What it is exactly, I don't know, but I would assume, just based off of what I do know, is that it would be around 80 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know once it gets like over 99, 100 degrees, soil biology turns off, literally. Shuts down, things go into like dead or hibernation mode. And when it gets too cold, it does the same thing.
Same thing.
Yeah, so there is a sweet spot in soil temperature for things to be the most active and thriving.
Yeah. I've never heard that for heat, but I've always heard that for hibernation. Grass goes into hibernation for winter time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you mow it one time and then it kind of hibernates. It's the temperature, and then it kind of comes back in the spring.
So generally when it's like under 60 degrees,
okay,
it'll do that. And at my buddy's house yesterday on his app, he said his soil temperature was like 56 degrees, which is great because this is above freezing.
Yeah.
Right? So we're getting there. I want to see it get about that 60, 65 degree mark. 65 degrees, and we'll really start seeing stuff move.
That's whenever, spring has sprung. They'll say.
Yeah.
Things will grow.
Well, we're definitely moving in that direction at that time.
All right. Right now, let's see, it's 9:35. This is KHEARadio.com, 99.5 FM. If you're watching on social media, feel free to share this out. Hit the share button. Talking to AJ with Hippie Fertilizing about everything that you need to know about your grass and how you can help support soil biology and do your part in your micro ecosystem for the macro ecosystem. I love it. So, okay, so right now, spring pretty much here, kind of getting that stuff together. And we talked about what we should be doing with the hard freeze. We talked about some of the buzzwords with that people should stay away from. What are some buzzwords that people should, maybe they've heard before and they need to know, or if they haven't, they need to know? Like, what's some important things?
It's a super good question. You know, those don't come across my radar as often, unfortunately.
Is the bad ones. It's just
the good ones.
the good ones. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, no, it's usually the bad stuff that's like, what about this and how do I kill that? I'm like, no, don't.
Yeah.
Let it live.
Yeah. Well, it's not really a buzzword, but one thing you mentioned was like the earthworm in the bag and just like the bugs. That sometimes people are like, no, I don't like the bugs, but bugs are good. I know it's not a buzzword, but it's something that people tend to stay like, I don't want bugs in my yard.
Oh,
you know?
I'm glad you brought this up. Okay, because hopefully with this freeze, we really did make a huge impact on last year's sod webworms and chinch bugs, because those are definitely like tend to be buzzwords, and I say they're buzzwords because people will hear sod webworms and everyone who has a lawn problem thinks it's sod webworms now, right? Or vice versa. Chinch bugs, brown patch. Trust me, you're most likely not getting brown patch in the middle of summertime, and you're not going to get sod webworms in January and February, you know? So my point in saying all that is I hear people all the time saying, well, should I pre-treat for the bugs? No, don't. Please stay away from the insecticides, because trying to pre-treat for bugs is kind of like saying, well, I'm just going to take antibiotics so I don't get sick.
Just in case.
Yeah, and if anybody knows anything about that, that's a terrible idea, right? It will ruin your immune system, just like pre-treating for bugs will essentially ruin like your soil's immune system. So you're actually more likely to get the problem you're trying to prevent. And when it does hit, it's going to hit harder.
Yeah. So you also mentioned that the freeze that we had would kind of knock out some of those weeds. What does it do for the like chinch? I mean, do chinch bugs like hibernate?
Dude, they do. They can stay in the soil for a long time, and then when their conditions are right, they'll hatch and come out and wreak havoc on everything.
So if you had them, last year, and then you're like, oh, thank God, the hibernation with the grass, but the chinch bugs probably laid eggs and are hibernating too and ready to come back.
Right. Yeah, unfortunately, wherever you have chinch bugs, you are likely to get it there again, unless you totally knocked them out. And the best, cheapest way to knock them out that I know of is simply Dawn dish soap and water. And that works great on a lot of bugs. So if you're having a bug problem, instead of going for the spectricide and insecticide and this side and that side, go for the soap.
Would you just drizzle it over the area, or would you wet it at all after? How would you do that?
Okay, so I'm lazy sometimes.
Okay.
I just take a bottle, spray it all over the lawn, and freaking hose it in, make my lawn look all soapy. But the other way, if you're going to do it more professional-like, right, is put like 2 to 4 ounces in a hose-in sprayer.
Okay.
And then fill the rest of the way up with water, make that a good solution, and spray that all over the lawn or all over your plants. And it's not going to have a huge negative impact on the most precious thing, your soil biology, right? It's not going to be harmful for us. So it's just a cheaper, easier way to manage a lot of pest issues.
Could you pre-treat that way?
No, don't do
You
it.
don't pre-treat that way either.
Don't do
Okay.
it. I do not preach any kind of pre-treating, okay? You can do a pre-feeding, don't do a pre-treating.
Okay. You want to feed the soil.
That's it, man. That's the name of the game. Feed it, don't treat it.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
AJ, is there anything else you want to share this morning?
No, not really. Check out hippiefertilizing.com. Go check out my YouTube channel. Just search Hippie Fertilizing. We'll be back in a couple weeks with some more information. What I would like to say, though, is as we wrap it up, if y'all do hear this video and see it, what are some other things that you'd like to know? I'd like to kind of dig into them a little bit more and get some more information for you. But as you all may know, if you don't already, my biggest deal is, it's not necessarily what's good for the lawn. We do want to do that big time, make you happy, help you have green grass, but we want to also do what's good for the environment, for all of us, because we all share the air and the water, man.
I love it.
That's what I practice. It's what I preach. It's what I do. It's what it's all about.
All right. I appreciate you coming in today, hanging out, getting this good information out.
Thank you. And remember, nobody knows grass like a hippie.
This is KHEA Radio, 99.5 FM. All right, Facebook, again, share this video out. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. And I won't know the answer, but AJ will.
And if I don't, ask him anyway, because I need to learn.
All right, guys.